So now let's talk about JSON, or JavaScript Object Notation. So this is going to be most likely how data is going to be formatted when it is sent back to you from an API response. So in general, the two formatting styles that you'll get back from a REST API will either be JSON or it'll be XML, extensible markup language, but really in the modern world, it will almost always be JSON. And so the idea behind JSON is to have one standard way of being able to format data so that when you make a request to an API, you can get the response back, and then you understand how you're able to read the values from the response. So when you get the value from the response and you're looking at the JSON format, it'll either look like an array to you or a collection of dictionaries and lists if you're used to the Python world. If you don't understand what any of that means, it's okay. Again, we have follow-on classes so you can learn Python and other programming languages. But basically the idea here when we're talking about an array or we're talking about a collection is the concept of you have one variable that it can have multiple values at different indexes, right? And so the idea here is when you make a request to the API, it will send back one value to you. You'll get that response value, but then in that response, there will be multiple indexes, basically multiple spots. And so in order to get the specific information that you care about, you simply call that specific index. So we talked about the REST APIs before. So we made a request from an API that gives us information about our geographic area based off of our IP address. So we can do response with an index of city, and then that will give us the value for city in that response. We could do response with an index of state, and will give us the state within that response. And so basically that's how that API response is formatted for the specific type of information that we care about. And so as long as we know the values that are being returned, we can simply ask for those specific values without having to deal with everything else in the response. And so that's what we're looking at with JSON. So let's go over to the computer just so I can give you a brief demonstration of what this looks like. If you're too confused, don't worry about it. When we get into the real coding classes, this will make a lot more sense. So this is the JSON response that I showed you before that you can actually look at in just a normal web browser. So you go to ip-api.com/JSON. So this is making a request through the API from this vendor, and you're getting this JSON response back with geographic information about your IP address. So you're in the country of the United States, you're in the region of New Jersey, you're in the city of North Bergen, zip code, so on and so forth. And to be clear, yes, I am using a VPN with this, so please don't try to ping to death my IP address. You will simply be pinging some VPN server. So anyway, so this is what JSON looks like as a response. If we go over and we take a look at our code in VS Code, I'll show you an example using a catfacts API. So here I have a simple Python script. Again, you don't really have to worry about this Python script. I just want to show you how this works, again, in the real world. So we're creating a variable called response, and the value for that variable is we're going to use the get method. We're going to go to catfact.ninja/fact. So that's going to give us a random cat fact, and then we're going to format this as JSON, and then we can print out the entire response. So when I run this particular script, we're going to see our random fact is, contrary to popular belief, the cat is a social animal. A pet cat will respond and answer to speech and seems to enjoy human companionship. And we can see the length of this is something like 141 characters. So we have an index for fact. This is all of the information at the index for fact, and then we have an index for length, and this is the value for index for length. Now, what if I just want the fact to be printed out to the screen? Again, imagine this is a much more complicated piece of software, so you can use Python in order to create a web application. So imagine if I had a web page, and on the web page, every time you went to the web page, I just want to give you a random cat fact. Now, I would not want to print all of this onto the web page. It's just ugly and it's not very readable. So what I can do is I can sit here and I can see, okay, fact is the index for this information. So instead of doing print response, I can do print response at the index of fact. And so when I now run this, I will only get the fact back that I actually care about. And so again, that's what we're talking about, where JSON uses these indexes so I can get the value from this particular index, so I can put that into a database, print it out on a screen, so on and so forth. So that's the basic idea behind JSON. JavaScript object notation. All this is a way of formatting data so that when your code goes to an API, you will get a response back that is relatively easy to parse. Now, what I just showed you was that cat fact API, and I also showed you that geographic API thing. And to be honest, those are very easy to parse, right? You just say city, or you just say fact, or whatever else, and you get the information that you're looking for. Just as a warning, oh, it's not that it's hard or complicated, but when you get back really long JSON responses, and you have a lot of different indexes and basically different values within the JSON response, I will warn you, it gets to be tedious. Let's just say it can be very tedious to figure out how to read the JSON response. The great thing is once you figure out how to properly parse a JSON response, you just write that into your code and then you're done. Right? That's one of the values with these REST APIs. You don't have to worry about them changing the format of how the data is going to come back to you day by day. So once you figure out how to parse, how to read the JSON response, basically you just set that in your code and you walk the hell away. I will warn you though, some of these JSON responses can make you rip the very little hair you have out in your head, just trying to figure out basically how to get to the specific value you're looking for. I will tell you, ChatGPT can be absolutely awesome, or any of these AI services can be absolutely awesome for basically dumping the JSON response into ChatGPT or into AI and saying, how do I format a JSON request or whatever to be able to get a specific value, and just see what AI gives you back. That might be a good way to be able to read JSON sometimes. So that's the thing about JSON, is it's a standard way of being able to present the data. Again, in general, it is relatively easy to understand. In practice, again, you'll see when we get into actual Python coding and doing projects, you can get some really ugly JSON responses back that might take you a minute or hour or two to figure out how to properly read.